Hello, my name is Mayanka. I am accounts and a finance trainer from UPLETS. Today, we are covering the topic of marginal costing. This is part 4 of the marginal costing concept. We have covered this topic in 4 parts. Part 1, Part 2 and Part 3 are already discussed by us, and this is the last part of marginal costing. In previous parts, we have discussed the concept of marginal costing, meaning of marginal cost, definition of marginal costing, advantages and disadvantages of the marginal costing, how to calculate marginal cost, the differences between marginal cost, incremental cost, and differential cost, break-even point, how to calculate break-even point in units and in value, and when the organization want to earn the profit, then how we will calculate the break even point, what is the margin of safety and how to calculate the margin of safety. And we have discussed CVV analysis, assumptions of CVV analysis, and many other relevant points of marginal costing. And we have also discussed the setting examples or the questions on the basis of which all the concepts are very clear to understand. So this is the last part of the marginal costing, in which we will cover all other least relevant points and relevant topic of such marginal costing concept. Now we will start our video. First, we will discuss the application of CVV analysis in the decision making. Application of CVV analysis in the decision making. How we can use the CVV analysis in the case of or for the purpose of taking the decisions. So, framework for decision making. Framework for the decision making. Step number 1. When there is an entity want to use the CVV analysis for the purpose of decision making, then the entity will maintain a framework. There is a framework for the decision making which shall include the following steps. Step number 1 is identification of problem. First, the entity will identify the problem. Number 2, the entity will identify the options. First, we will identify the problem. Then after, we will identify the options. Then after, we will evaluate the option. We will evaluate which option is much better. And then after, we will select the option. Number 1 step is identification of the problem. Number 2 is identification of the options. Number 3 is evaluation of the options. And number 4 is selection of the options. Number 1 is identification of the problem. First, we will identify the options. First, we will identify the options. Every organization has its own objective. Each and every organization has its own objective and the goal, which are set by the entity for achieve the objectives. The organization has its own objective and the goals, and all these are set to achieve the objective. When the organization want to achieve the goal, then the entity take the proper actions. Instead, there are the many actions which are taken by the organization to achieve the goals. An entity that exists for profit may identify few areas. In the case when there is any organization which is want to earn the amount of profit, then such entity identify few areas which, if work on, can add the profit or the wealth maximization. In the case when there is any organization wants to earn the amount of profit, in this case there are the certain areas which are to be identified by the entity. If such areas are properly if such areas are properly evaluated and properly analyzed, then such areas can increase or it can add the amount of profit or the amount of wealth of any enterprises or of any organization. So first the first the entity will identify the problem. What is the actual problem? Because if there is any problem, then the entity cannot obtain or cannot reach at the goal or cannot achieve the objectives. And when the entity will identify the problems, then the entity can take the proper actions to solve all these problems. The entity can take all the actions to solve all these problems. And when all the problems are solved by the entity, then the entity can earn the amount of profit and can gain the profit and wealth maximization. First, we will identify First, we will identify the problem for the purpose of decision making. The next framework or the next step for the decision making is identification of option. When the entity identify the problem, then there is the next step is identification of option. Identification of the option is the next step for the step of decision making or for the framework of decision making. In the case when there is a problem, then the entity identifies certain different objectives so that the entity can achieve the goals. Every possible option need to be explored. Is that before the selecting any of the option, it is a very much important to evaluate or to explore each possible option so that the entity can properly identify which option is better for the organization to achieve the goal and to achieve the objectives. So the second step is identification of option. The next is evaluation of the option. The next step is evaluation of the option. First step is identification of the problem. Next step is identification of option. And the third step is evaluation of option. After the identification of option, when the entity identify all the relevant option, then after the entity will evaluate each the option. The identity, the entity will evaluate each of the option and it will check whether it is within the objective criteria of the organization or not. An entity will an entity with objective of making the profit may evaluate option on the basis of financial measurement like impact of profit and loss, market share, overall impact on profitability, and return on investment, etc. An entity will an entity with the objective of making the profit, when there is any entity wants to make the profit, then the entity will evaluate all the options on the basis of financial measurement like impact of profit and loss account, market share, overall impact on profitability, return on investment, etc. The non-financial factor like customer satisfaction, impact on the existing market, impact on the customer, ethics of decision making will also be evaluated for the purpose of taking a particular option. Is that financial or the non-financial factor, will all the factors whether it is financial or non-financial are to be considered for the purpose of evaluation of option. When the entity identify the option, then the entity will evaluate the option, and on the basis of this the entity will check on the basis of this the entity will check whether such option can fulfill the objective criteria of the organization or not. For the purpose of this, the entity will consider financial factors as well as the non-financial factors when it is considering or when it is evaluating the option. This step is a very much important and may be grouped into two tasks. The evaluation of the option are to be made or it is to be done into two tasks. Number one, identification of cost and the benefit of the each option. Number one, first the entity will identify the cost and the benefits of each option. Then after, the entity will also estimate the amount of each option. First, the entity will calculate and the entity will identify the cost and the benefit of each option. And then after, the entity will estimate the amount of each option. So these are the two steps which are to be considered for the evaluation of the options. The next step is selection of objective, selection of option. After evaluation of the option, the best option is to be selected by the entity and the entity will implement such option. After the identification of problem, after the identification of option, and after the evaluation of the problem, evaluation of the objective or options, the entity will select a particular option which will be considered good and which is the very much useful for the entity for fulfill the objectives. So this is the proper framework for the decision making. This is the proper framework for the decision making. Now, we will discuss the principles for identification of cost and the benefit for the measurement. Now, we will discuss the principles which are used. Now, we will discuss the principles which are used for the identification of cost. Now, we will discuss the principles which are used for the identification of cost and for the benefits of measurements. For measurement, the cost and the benefit is an option is the benefits and the cost of an option is identified for the measurement if it passes the principle of controllability and relevance. The cost and the benefits of the option is identified for the measurement if it is passes the principle of controllability and the relevance. Controllability and the relevance are: number one is controllability. Controllability. These costs and the benefit which are arise due to the choice of an option. Controllability are those costs and those benefits which are arise due to the choice of an option. In other words, the benefits which are received and the costs which are incurred are directly related with the choice of the option. The cost and the benefits which are related to a option is directly related with the option. Thus, the cost and the benefit which are controllable are considered for the for the measurement of taking the decision. Is that the cost and the benefits which are controllable, which can be controlled, are to be considered for the purpose of measurement and for the purpose of taking the decision. This is the controllability. The costs and the benefits which are controllable then are to be considered for the purpose of decision making. And the relevance, the costs which are controllable need to be relevant for the decision making. Is that the costs which are controllable, and these costs should be relevant. If number one, the cost is controllable and it should be relevant for the decision making. This means all controllable costs are not relevant. This means that we can't say that all the controllable costs are relevant, but there are some costs which may be irrelevant for the decision making. For the decision making, unless it differ the under the two options. Thus, the cost is treated as relevant only if. Now we will discuss which cost is to be considered as relevant. Then the cost is to be considered relevant if it is a future cost. The cost is to be considered relevant if it is the future cost. And number two, it differ under two options under consideration. Number one, it is the future cost. Number two, it differ under two options under the consideration. Then this is the concept of controllability and the relevance. There are some analysis of the few costs for its relevance. Number one, historical cost. Historical cost is the irrelevant cost. Historical cost is the irrelevant cost. And reason why it is irrelevant, because the historical costs are those costs which are already incurred. The historical costs are those costs which are already incurred and which do not have any effect on the decision. The historical costs are those costs which are irrelevant and it does not have any effect on the decision. For the example, book value of machinery. Book value of the machinery is the historical cost and it does not have any effect on the decision. Sunk cost is also be irrelevant. Sunk cost is also be irrelevant because the cost which is already paid either for the goods or either for the services which are already availed. The cost which is already paid either for the goods or either for the services, then it is a sunk cost. For the example, the raw material which is purchased and held in the stock without having any replacement cost, cost of drawing and blueprint, etc. Commitment cost. Commitment cost will also be relevant because the commitment costs are the pre-agreed cost which cannot be revoked. Commitment costs are those costs which are pre-agreed and which cannot be revoked under the normal circumstances. This is also a sunk cost. For example, cost of material as per rate agreement, salary cost to the employee, etc. These all are the committed costs and these all are the irrelevant for the purpose of decision making because because these costs are these costs are fixed, just like a fix. This will be incurred whether the decision or not, whether there is a requirement to make the decision or not. So all the historical costs, all the sunk costs, and all the committed costs are the irrelevant costs for the purpose of taking a decision. No. Opportunity cost. Opportunity costs are the relevant cost. The opportunity costs are the relevant cost because the opportunity cost is presented by the foregone potential benefit from the best rejected course of action. Is that the opportunity cost is a cost which is represented by the foregone potential benefits from the best rejected course of action. Had the option under the consideration not chosen and the benefit would come to the organization. For the example, there is a person who is who want to do the business but he is already in a job. So in the case of in the case in the case of in the case of a job, he is earning 20,000 rupees per month. Then if he want to switch to business, then the 20,000 rupees is to be considered as an opportunity cost, and this cost is relevant for the purpose of taking the decision. It is that there should be at least 20,000 rupees per month earning in the business so that he can recover or he can adjust such amount with the salary amount. So this is the opportunity cost. So this is the opportunity cost and it is relevant for the purpose of taking the decisions. Number 5 is notional and imported cost. Notional and the imported cost is also the relevant cost. Notional costs are the relevant costs and these are those costs which are relevant for the purpose of decision making. The notional costs are the relevant cost for the purpose of decision making if the company is actually foregoing benefits by employing its resources to the alternative course of action. The notional costs are those costs which are used by the organization for the purpose of decision making. And these costs are relevant for the purpose of decision making if the company is actually foregoing benefit by employing its resources to the alternative course of action. For the example, notional interest on internally generated fund is treated as a relevant notional cost only if the company earns the profit from it. Shutdown costs. Shutdown costs will also be considered as relevant for the purpose of decision making. For the purpose of decision making, the shutdown cost will also be considered relevant. When there is any organization suspends its manufacturing operation, certain fixed costs can be avoided. When there is any organization which want to suspend its business or its manufacturing operation, then the certain expenses can be avoided, and there are certain extra fixed expenses which can be expended or which can be incurred. It is depend upon the nature of industry. By closing the manufacturing, the organization can save certain variable costs as well as certain fixed costs. This particular disciplinary cost is to be known as shutdown cost. So the shutdown cost is relevant for the purpose of taking the decisions. So on the basis of this, we can say that the opportunity cost, notional cost, and the shutdown cost are the relevant costs for the purpose of decision, and all these costs are to be considered for the purpose of decision. Now we will discuss the principles of estimations, the principles of estimations of cost and benefit. What are the principles of estimation? On the basis of which principles we will estimate the amount of cost and the amount of benefits. Estimations, principles of estimations of cost and benefits. After the identification of the cost and the benefit, it is now required to identify the cost and the benefit should be measured and estimated. After the identification of the cost and the benefits, it is now required to be quantified. When the entity identify all the costs and all the benefits, now there is the next step is quantified the all the costs and all the benefits. Is that the cost and the benefit should be measured, should be managed, and it should be estimated. The estimated is to be done by the following two principles which are discussed. Is that the estimations of the cost and the benefit are to be made on the basis of two principles. There are two principles which are used for the estimation of cost or for the estimation of benefits. Number one principle is variability. Number two is traceability. Variability and traceability, these are the two principles for estimating the benefit and the cost. Number one is variability. Variability means by how much of cost or how much of the benefit increased or decreased due to the choice of the option. Variability means how much of the cost or how much of the benefits increase or decrease due to the choice of option. Variable costs are the costs which differ under the different volume and activities. Variable costs are those costs which are increased and which are decreased due to the choice of option. The variable costs are the costs which are differ under the different volume and under the different activities. On the other hand, fixed costs remain same irrespective of volume and irrespective to activities. Traceability. Traceability of the cost means traceability of the cost means degree of relationship between the cost and the choice of option. Traceability of the cost means the degree of relationship between the cost and the choice of option. Direct costs are directly assigned to the options. On the other hand, direct costs are directly related to the option, and the indirect costs are need to be apportioned on the basis of some reasonable basis. Direct costs are directly related to the product or it is directly related to the option, but the indirect costs need to be apportioned on the basis of certain reasonable basis. These are the concept, these are the principles of estimating the cost and the benefits. Now we will discuss The short-term decision-making concept, the short-term decision-making by using the concept of CVV analysis. Now we will discuss how we take the short-term decisions by using the CVV analysis. How we can take the short-term decision by using the concept of CVV analysis. The management use marginal cost and the CVV concept for making the various decisions. The management use various costing methods and CVV concept for making the various decisions. The short-term decisions are related with the temporary gap. The short-term decisions are related with the temporary gap, the gap between the supply and demands for the available resources. The area of short-term decision may be classified into two broad categories. The area of short-term decisions are to be classified into two categories. These categories are: number one, the decisions which are related with the excess supply. The decision which is related to the excess supply, such as the decision which is related to the excess supplies, then these decisions are processing of special order, processing of the special order. Number two, decision in the respect of determination of price for simulating demand, and decision in the respect of local and export sale. Decision which is related to the determination of minimum price for the price quotation, and the decision which is related to the shutdown or continuous decision, etc. Is that decisions which are related with the excess supply contain the following decisions: processing of the special order, decision in the respect of determination of price for simulating demand, and determination in the end the decision in the respect of local and export sale, and decision which is related for the determination of minimum price for price quotation, and the decision which is related to the shutdown or continuous decision, etc. And second is decision which are related with the excess demand. Decisions which are related with the excess demand. If there is any excess demand of any product, then there are the requirement of the following decision. Number one is make or buy decision. How the, the decision which is related to whether to make the product or whether to buy such product to fulfill the excess demand, or in-housing processing or outsourcing. Decision related to the product mix decision under resource constraints, sale mix decisions, and sale and further processing decisions. These all are decisions are to be taken by the entity when there is the excess demand. What is the limiting factor? Now we will discuss the limiting factor. What is a limiting factor? Limiting factor is anything which limit the activity of the entity. The limiting factor is a factor can which can limit the activities of the entities. The limiting factor is determined the level of sale and the production. The factor is a key. Is that the limiting factor is a key which is determine the level of sale and the production. Thus, it is to be known as key factor. For the supply side, the limiting factor may be the material, it may be the employee, it may be the machine capacity, it may be the money. And from the demand side, the other factor are to be considered as a limiting factor, just like nature of product, price of product, regulatory and environmental requirement. The management, while taking any of the decision, the objective to maximize the key resources up to the maximum possible extent. Is that when the entity want to take any decision, then the entity take all the limiting factor into the consideration, and the entity want to use all the resources so that the entity can fulfill all the limiting factor very properly in a proper manner. Now we will discuss it by the way of example. A company can make any one of three products. The company can make product X, product Y, or product Z. Any one. It can exercise its option only at the beginning of the year. It can exercise its option only at the beginning of year. Relevant information about the product for the next year is as follows. X by Z. The selling price of X by Z is, for X it is 10 rupees, for Y it is 12 rupees, and for Z it is also 12 rupees. The variable cost of X is 6 rupees, the variable cost of Y is 9 rupees, and the variable cost of Z is 7 rupees. The market demand of X is 3000, the market demand of Y is 2000, and the market demand of Z is 1000. And the production capacity of X is 2000, the production capacity of Y is 3000, and the production capacity of Z is 900. Fixed cost 30,000 rupees. On the basis of this, compute the opportunity cost for each of the product. On the basis of this, now we will discuss the opportunity cost. First, we will calculate the contribution per unit. The amount of contribution is equal to selling price minus the variable cost. In the case of X, the amount of contribution is 4 rupees. In the case of Y, the amount of contribution is 3 rupees, and the amount of contribution in the case of Z is 5 rupees. Then the units, there is the market demand of the unit is market demand or production, whichever is lower. We will take it as a lower of production or lower of market price. Sorry, market demand. In the case of X, unit required unit are 2000. In the case of Y, 2000, and in the case of Z is 900. And the possible contribution will be 2000 into 4, 8000. In the case of Y, it will be 6000, and in the case of Z, it will be 4500. And the opportunity cost will be, in the case of X, it will be 6000 rupees. If we will produce X, then we will forego Y, because the Y have the more higher contribution. Then the opportunity cost will be contribution of Y. It is 6000. And if we produce Y, then we will forego X. And the contribution of the X is 8000. Then the opportunity cost for the Y is 8000. In the case when we will produce Z, then we will not produce X, because we will produce Z, and in this case the opportunity cost for the Z is 8000. Because if B does not produce Z, then we will produce X, because it has the higher contribution. So the opportunity cost is the opportunity cost for the Z is 8000. Opportunity cost is the maximum possible contribution which is foregone by not producing alternative. If X is produced, then the opportunity cost will be the maximum of 6000 or 4500. Now we will discuss it by the way of other example. X Limited supply spare parts to an aircraft company. X Limited supply करती है, X company supply some spare parts to the aircraft company by the production capacity of X. The production capacity of X Limited facilitates production of any one spare part for a particular period of time. There is the following cost informations which are given in the respect of part A or part B. Part A and part B, and this is the information per unit basis. Number 1 is early uses, 1.6 kg in part A and 1.6 kg in part B. Machine time for machine P and for machine Q. Machine P used in part A 0.6 hour and in part B 0.25 hours. Machine Q used in part A 0.5 hour and in machine part B 0.44 hour. Target price part 1, sorry, part A 145, and for part B the target price is 115. Total hours available for machine P is 4000 and for machine Q is 4500. These all are the relevant informations. Only available is 13,000 kilometers and the rate is 12.5 rupees per kilometer. The variable overhead per machine hours is the variable overhead per machine hour for machine P is 80 rupees and for machine Q is 100 rupees. On the basis of these relevant information, identify the spare parts which will optimize contribution at the offered price. And another requirement is, if Buy Limited reduce the target price by 10 rupees, sorry, by 10% and offer 60 rupees hours of unutilized machine hours, then on the basis of this, calculate the total contribution from the spare parts which are identified above. Okay, first we will prepare a contribution sheet. We will calculate the contribution. Machine P has a 4000 hour, and if we will utilize it in production A, then we will produce 6666 units, and if we use it in production B, then we will produce 16,000 units. We will produce 16,000 units. So, and in the case of machine Q, the machine Q has a maximum hours 4500. If we use such machine for the production of part A, then it will produce 9,000 units. And if we use such machine for part B, then it will be produce 8,181 rupees. Sorry, 81 units. Only available is 13,000 kilometers, 13,000 kilogram. Then if we produce A, then it will be produce 8,125 units. If we produce or if we use such only for the production of part 1, then it will produce 8,125 units. And if we use such only for the production of B, then it will produce 8,125 units. Then the maximum number of part of manufacturing is that on the basis of these, we will determine how much we can produce by using the all these products. Then in the case of part A, we will produce maximum 6,666 units, and in the case of part B, we can produce maximum 8,125. 8,125. Now we will discuss it. Now we will discuss the amount of contribution in the case of A and in the case of part B. The material cost is 12.5 rupees and the material which is used is 1.6 kilogram. Then 20 rupees for both. Variable overhead for P is 48 and variable overhead for the variable overhead of machinery hours for part B is 20 rupees. The variable overhead which are related to the machine Q is 50 rupees and 55 rupees. Then the total variable cost is 118, and in the part B, in the respect of part B, it is 95, and the price which is offered is 145 and 115. Then the total amount of contribution is 27 rupees. Then the amount of total contribution is 27 rupees. The amount of total contribution is 27 rupees in the case of part A, and in the case of part B, it is 20 rupees. Then the total amount of the contribution is equal to 6,666 into 27. It will be 1,79,892. Sorry, 982. And if we produce part B, then the total amount of contribution will be 8,125 into 20 rupees. Then it will be 1,62,500. The amount of the profit is higher in the case of part A. In the case of part A, then the spare parts will be utilized. Then spare part A will optimize the contribution. So we will produce, or we will make part A. Now we will discuss part to be manufactured number. The part, then on the basis of previous sheet, on the basis of previous calculation, we have discussed that we will produce part A, and then the part A which is to be manufactured is 6,666, and in this case P, machine P to be used 4,000 hours, and machine Q will be used 3,333. And underutilized machine hours, underutilized machine hours are 4,500 divided minus 3,333, is that 1167. 1167 are the unutilized machinery hours, and the compensation for the unutilized machinery are providing 60 rupees per hour. 60 rupees per hour. Then the total is 17,220 rupees. 17,020 rupees is the amount of compensation for the unutilizing machinery hours. And if there is a reduction in the price by 10%, if there is a reduction in the price by the 10%, causing the fall in the contribution of 14.15, then the reduction in price due to the reduction loss due to the reduction in price is, then the amount of reduction in price is equal to total unit 6,666 into 14.5. It is the amount of 96,657. Then the total amount of contribution is A plus B minus C. Is that the total amount of contribution is 1,79,982. We will plus 70,020 rupees, and we will reduce the reduction in price 96,657, and the amount of total contribution will be 1,53,345. 1,53,345 is the amount of total contribution after the reduction in 10%, after reduction in price by 10%. Now we will discuss the differences between the marginal and the absorption costing. What are the differences between marginal costing and absorption costing? The main point of the differences between marginal costing and the absorption costing are as follows. Number one, marginal costing. In the case of marginal costing, only the variable costs are considered for the product costing and inventory valuation. In the case of marginal costing, only the variable costs are considered for the production costing and for the inventory valuation. But in the case of absorption costing, both variable as well as fixed costs are considered for the product costing and inventory valuation. In the case of marginal costing, fixed costs are, in the case of marginal costing, the fixed costs are regarded as period costs. In the case of marginal costing, the fixed costs are to be considered as a period cost. The profitability of the different project is just by the PV ratio. The profitability of the different product are to be determined by the PV ratio. But in the case of absorption costing, fixed costs are charged to the cost of production, and each product bear a reasonable share of fixed cost, and thus the profitability of the product is influenced by the apportionment of fixed cost. In the case of marginal cost, the cost data presented highlight the total contribution of each product. The cost data which is presented highlight the total contribution of each product. And in the case of absorption costing, the cost data are presented. In the case of absorption costing, the cost data are presented in conventional pattern. Net profit of each of the product is determined after subtracting the fixed cost along with the variable cost. So these all are the differences between between marginal costing and the absorption costing. The another difference are, in the case of marginal costing, the difference in the magnitude of opening stock and the closing stock does not affect the cost of production, because in the case of marginal costing, the opening stock and the closing stock are to be valued on the basis of on the basis of uh, variable on the basis of variable cost. But in the case of absorption costing, the differences in the magnitude of opening and the closing stock affect the unit cost of the production due to the impact of fixed cost. In the case of absorption costing, the fixed cost also be considered for taking the value of a closing stock and opening stock. In the case of marginal costing, the cost per unit remains same irrespective of production, as it is valued at variable cost. Yes, in the case of marginal costing, the valuation of the product is to be made on the basis of variable cost, then it will remain same. But in the case of absorption costing, the cost per unit will be reduced when there is the increase in the production, or when there is the reduction in fixed cost, whether the variable cost will remain same as per the unit. So these all are the differences between the marginal costing and the observed costing. Now we will discuss the differences in profit under marginal costing and the absorption costing. What are the differences between the what are differences in profit? What are the differences in the profit under marginal costing or under the absorption costing? The above two approach will compute a different profit because the difference in the stock valuation. There are two different approach because there are the different profits. The profit will be different because in the both approach the computation in the respect of stock valuation is different. This difference is explained as follows in the different circumstances. Number one, opening and the closing stock. In this case, profit and loss under observed and marginal costing will be equal. In the case of marginal costing, the opening stock, in the case of opening, when there is any no opening and no closing stock, in this case, the profit and loss will be under observed and marginal costing will be equal, because in the case of marginal costing, the stock is valued on the variable cost, so there will not be any effect on the of the stock when opening stock is equal to closing stock. When the opening stock is equal to the closing stock, in this case, the profit and loss under two approach will be equal, provided that the fixed element in the both the stock is same amount. In the case when the opening stock and when the closing stock both are same, in this case, the amount of profit and the amount of loss under these two approach will remain equal, provided that the fixed cost element in both the stock is the same amount. The next is when closing stock is more than the opening stock. When closing stock is more than the opening stock. In other words, when the production during the period is more than the sale, then the profit as per the absorption costing will be more than the marginal costing. The reason behind is that the differences is the part of fixed overhead which is included in closing stock value, and it is carried forward to the next accounting period. And when the opening stock is more than the closing stock, in this case, when the production is less than the sale, then the amount of the profit which is shown in the marginal costing will be higher. In this case, the profit which is shown by the marginal costing will be higher than the observed costing. This is because the part of the fixed cost from the preceding period is added to the current year of the cost of goods sold in the form of opening stock. Presentation of information to the management under the two costing techniques. These are the presentation of cost under the two techniques. How we will present the information to the management in the respect of cost or in the respect of income by these two technologies or by these two techniques. In the case of observed costing, the income statement are to be prepared in the following manner. Number one, sale less all the production cost. Production costs include all the variable cost or fixed manufacturing cost. Just like direct material which is consumed, labor cost, variable manufacturing overhead, fixed manufacturing overhead, cost of production. Then on the basis of this, we will calculate total cost of production. Then we will add opening stock of finished goods and we will less closing stock of finished goods. And then on the basis of this, we will identify the cost of goods sold. Then in the cost of goods sold, we will add under observe of fixed cost and we will also add administrative costs, selling overhead costs and distribution overhead. On the basis of this, we will identify total cost and then we will reduce the total cost from the sale and we will identify or we will calculate the profit. This is the statement which is discussed by us in detailed form in the observed costing concept. So if you want to understand this concept or this format in the very detailed form, to kindly refer the class of observation costing. This is only a statement on the basis of which we can explain how to calculate the amount of profit as per the observation costing. And income statement for the marginal costing. First, we will calculate sale and then after we will exclude all the variable cost. Variable manufacturing cost is equal to direct material cost. We will calculate direct labor, variable manufacturing overhead, and then we will identify cost of goods which is produced. Then we will add opening stock of finished goods less closing stock of finished goods. On the basis of this, we will calculate cost of goods sold. Then we will add all the variable administrative, selling and distribution overhead and selling and distribution overhead. Then we will calculate the amount of contribution. Contribution is equal to sales minus the total variable cost. Then the amount of contribution, and in the amount of contribution we will exclude or we will deduct all the amount of fixed cost. After deducting the fixed cost, we will find the amount of net profit. Is that the amount of net profit as per the marginal costing will be calculated on the basis of such a statement. Now we will discuss it by the way of example. There is an example so that we can understand how to prepare this statement properly. Wanda Limited manufactures single product jest. The following figures which are related to the jest for the 1 year are as follows. Activity label 50% and 100%. Sale and production unit 400 and 800. Sale 8 lakhs and in the case of 100% it is 16 lakh. The production cost, variable cost 3 lakh 20,000 and 6 lakhs 40,000 and the fixed cost remains same 1 lakh 60,000 and 1 lakh 60,000. Selling and distribution overhead which are variable in nature is 1 lakh 60,000 in the case when there is the 50% production or 50% activity and 3 lakh 20,000 in case of 100%. And fixed cost, fixed selling and distribution cost is 2 lakh 40,000 and 2 lakh 40,000 in the case of 100%. The normal level of activity for the year is 800 units. Fixed costs are incurred eventually throughout the year and actual fixed costs are the same as budgeted. There were no stock of gist at the beginning of the year. In the first quarter, 220 units are produced and 160 units are sold. So on the basis of this, compute the fixed production cost which is observed by the just if observation costing is used. First, we will calculate the total fixed production cost. If observation costing is used, and then calculate the under or over recovery of overhead during the period, and then after calculate the profit by using observation costing and by using marginal costing. So now we will solve this question and we will understand how to use the concept by the such example. Number one, we will discuss the fixed production costs which are observed. Fixed production cost observed. Budgeted fixed production cost is 1,60,000 and budgeted unit is 800 units. Then the observation rate is 1,60,000 divided by 800. It will be 200 rupees per unit. 200 rupees per unit. Then during the first quarter, the fixed production cost which is observed by JEST will be 220 units into 200 rupees per unit. 200 per unit, the fixed cost. Then 44,000 rupees is the amount of fixed production cost which is observed by JEST in the first quarter. Now, there is a second requirement of under or over recovery of overhead during the period. Under and over recovery of recovery of overhead. Then actual fixed production overhead should be 1,60,000 into divided by 4 because it is related to the first quarter one. Then it should be 40,000. But as per the observation costing, the observed fixed production overhead is 44,000. So there is the over recovery of overhead 4,000. 4,000 overhead are over recovered. 4,000 overheads are over recovery. Profit for the quarter by the observation costing. Now we will discuss our profit for the first quarter by using the observation costing. Sales revenue is the entity sold 160 unit and per unit is 2,000 rupees. Then the total amount of sale is 3,20,000. We will reduce all the production cost. Variable cost is 220 rupees. Sorry, variable cost is 800 rupees per unit and the number of units which is produced is 220 units in the quarter. Then the cost will be 1,76,000 and the fixed overhead cost is 44,000. Then the total amount of cost is 2,20,000. Then we will add opening stock. There is no any opening stock, but we have closing stock because we have produced 220 unit and we have sold only 160 unit. Then there is the closing stock of 60 units. Then the cost of 60 units is 220 lakh rupees. Production cost of 220 units. And what will be the cost of 60 units? Then 2,20,000 divided by 220 into 60. It is 60,000 rupees. Then the cost of goods sold is equal to 1,60,000. And we will add or less the over recovery and the under recovery. Then we will less the adjustment of over recovery 4,000. We will less the over recovery of the fixed production overhead. And then after we will add selling and a distribution overhead. Selling and distribution overhead. The selling and the distribution overhead is 400 rupees per unit and we sold 160 unit. Then the total amount of variable cost is 64,000 rupees and the fixed cost is 2,40,000 divided by 4 because it is related to the only a quarter. Then 60,000. Then the total amount of selling and distribution overhead is 1,24,000. Then the cost of sale is 1,60,000 minus 4,000 plus 1,25,000. It is 2,80,000. 2,80,000 and the sale price is 3,20,000, then the amount of profit is equal to 40,000 rupees as per the absorption costing. As per the absorption costing, the amount of the profit is 40,000 rupees. Now we will discuss the profit as per the marginal costing. The amount of sale will remain same, 3,20,000, and the amount of variable cost will also be remain same, 1,76,000. It is a the variable cost will be 1,70,000. We will not consider fixed. And now we will add opening stock, which is not there, and we will reduce the closing stock. There is a change in the value of closing stock, because in the case of marginal costing, the closing stock are to be valued at the variable cost. The variable cost is 1,76,000 of 220 units into 60 units. Then 48,000 is the amount of closing stock which will be reduced. Then the variable cost of goods sold is 1,28,000 rupees. Now we will add the selling and the distribution overhead. All the variable, 160 unit into 400 rupees per unit, 64,000. And the cost of goods sold is 1,28,000 plus 64,000, which is total cost of goods. Cost of sale is 1,92,000. And the amount of contribution will be sale minus variable cost. Sale is 3,20,000 minus variable. All the variable costs are 1,92,000. Then the amount of contribution is 1,28,000. Now we will reduce all the fixed costs. Production cost 40,000 and selling and distribution cost is 60,000. Total amount of fixed cost is 1 lakh. Then the amount of profit as per marginal costing is 28,000. The amount of profit as per the marginal costing is 28,000. And as per the absorption is 40,000. This is part 4 of the marginal costing. And on the basis of this part, we have covered the full topic of marginal costing. Such topic or such concept are covered by us in 4 parts, part 1, 2, 3 and 4. Kindly consider all the parts of such marginal costing so that you can understand the full concept of the marginal costing. There are many examples and many questions on the basis of which we can easily understand the concept of marginal costing. Thank you so much.